Welcome to the Fantasy Baseball Beat, part of the Pitcher List Podcast Network. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Torres. I'll be your host today. We have a great episode for you this week. We'll be speaking with Royals beat writer for the Kansas City Star, Jaylon Thompson. This is Jaylon's third time on the show. We always love having him on with us. We're going to get right to the interview. My co-hosts Mike and Dave are going to join me in a little bit. But first, let's talk to Jaylon. Jaylon, thank you so much for joining us again. We haven't scared you away yet, and we're so happy to have you back. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Chris. How are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. It's the halfway point of the baseball season. Cannot believe it. It's just flying by. But looking forward to this second half here. Let's talk about these Royals, and we're going to start with Jack. First question that I have before I get into any of his performance, anything around that. How the heck do you pronounce his last name?
So we have been saying Caglione. So
Okay.
I don't know if that is the official way to say it, but everyone in Kansas City says Caglione. So
Caglione. Okay, because there's been I hear people on other podcasts say his name, and some say it's Caglianone or Caglianone, or I don't know. So all right, so we're gonna go with Jack Caglione. All right, sounds good. So let's talk about Jack. And it hasn't been the greatest start for him. As of Thursday, he's got a 178 batting average with 2 home runs and 4 RBIs since being called up on June 3rd. So the early results have not been there, but we've definitely seen these flashes of potential from him. I want to ask you, Jaylon, what has been your impression of him so far? And if you could tell us both on and off the field what you're seeing from him.
we're looking at Jack Caglione. He's massive, and that's the first thing everyone points out when you first see him. 6'5", 250 pounds. He just looks like he's chiseled to be a athlete, regardless of the discipline or sport or whatever. He was born to play, and when you see him on the field, he just has just a great motor about him. He's hungry. He wants to be successful. And his start this year hasn't been probably what he had hoped, but we have to put it in perspective. He's only been in the professional ranks for just over a year now, or coming up on a year. Rose drafted him 6th overall in the 2024 MLB draft. The strides that he's made from going from high A to double A to triple A to the big leagues, he's hit at every level, and I think he will hit at the big league level. But every day he's seeing different pitchers. He's seeing different pitches. He's seeing different, scenarios where he has to go left on left, or he's got a single baller that's throwing it down in the way. He's got a pitch that's been thrown at his neck. Somehow he hit a home run on that pitch. So I think that he's learning so much. A lot's been thrown at him. Look at his expected numbers. I mean, they're better than what the numbers he currently has right now says. He's been hitting the ball to a lot of different guys in the field, and like his first game, he hit a line drive to Victor Scott in against St. Louis against the Cardinals. Scott made an unbelievable catch. Second at bat, hits a line drive to Nolan Arenado, who I call the vacuum, because you hit anything to Nolan Arenado, he's gonna vacuum it up and you're out. So he just playing the game. He's learning along the way. It doesn't help either that the Royals offense is not doing well at the moment. Really, they haven't been doing well all season. And that also puts another layer of, I wouldn't say pressure, but, another layer of development that he has to navigate his way through.
Mm-hmm. He really has been unlucky. According to StatCast, his expected batting average is 292. So he's under the Mendoza line, in terms of actual results, but he's hitting the ball hard, and I think the results are going to come. I have to ask you this. I don't even want to say it, but let's say his struggles continue. Let's say, he's still batting under 200 around the All-Star break. Do you think there's any scenario in which the Royals would send him back down to get a little bit more seasoning at AAA, or do you think he's up for good?
I think he'll be up for good because the Royals have already exhausted pretty much every option that they can possibly think of in their minor league system to come up and be ready to produce at the big league level. And his power is going to play. We've seen it, like you said, with the 2 home runs that he hit against the Texas Rangers. I just think that he just has to continue to just play the game.
Mhm.
Baseball is hard. Everyone that says that is in there, and that's they're totally right. Uh, the, Hitting that baseball, he makes it look so easy in triple A and double A, and hitting home runs 5 in a week, 6 in a week, what may have you. But when you get to this big league level, I mean, guys are throwing 95 mile per hour sliders and splits and cutters and slurs. And Seth Lugo, his own teammate, has 12 different pitches himself. So just imagine you being a rookie, you're coming in and you're seeing a guy that may be steady slider, and then the next guy that you face later in the game is throwing 100 miles per hour at your dome. I would be hard pressed to try to figure out a consistent plan to hit too.
Mm,
So I think that the more he gets reps, the more he gets those at bats in his system, he will start seeing the power come through. It's just like with any of us. Like for me, when I started in journalism, they
mhm,
throw you into the deep end, and you have to figure out how to write these stories and do it in a way that is on time and on deadline. But after a while, you start figuring out that
mhm,
you can do this, and then I think he'll do the same thing with the Royals.
mhm. Makes sense. All right, I'm going to pass it over to Dave, who has a question about an injured player that fantasy players cannot wait to get back into their lineups.
Yeah, one of the strengths of the Royals over the last couple of years has been their pitching, but they took a really big hit here with this Cole Reagan's injury. Do you have any updates for us?
Yeah, Cole Reagans has a left rotator cuff strain. Right now, he does not need surgery. He just needs to no injections or anything he has to do to kind of get the shoulder moving again or anything like that. It's just really just rest. And they shut him down for 4 weeks, see how he recovers and responds. They say it's relatively minor, but when you deal with a shoulder, you gotta calm everything down and you gotta be able to get it back healthy so it can be working again. So they're saying potentially you might not see him until maybe end of July, maybe early August, if that is the earliest. And I think the Royals just have to rely on what they have right now until Reagans can get back. But I talked to him in the clubhouse. He said he feels fine. He's feeling good. So it's one of those things where the body has to naturally heal, and when the body naturally heals, he'll be ready to go.
Yeah, you don't want to rush that back or anything like that, because then next thing you know, it's twice as long and he's out for who knows how long, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think Mike is frozen on our screen. So I'm going to take the next question here and ask you about Chris Bubich. So, Jaylon, this is someone who we talked about quite a bit this offseason as a potential breakout, and that has certainly come to fruition this year. Uh, we do notice, though, over his past few starts, I mean, he's still been very good, but not quite as dominant as he had been early in the season. Do you think Bubic is starting to get a little fatigued, given that he really last year didn't pitch that many innings? Do you think it's a matter of fatigue, or do you think this is just a rough patch that he's going through? And also, just want to follow up too. How many innings do you think they let him go, and how are they going to manage that?
That's a great question, Chris. I think for Chris Bubich, some fatigue probably is playing into it. We got to remind everyone that he's just coming back. This is his first full season where he's pitching after Tommy John, and in his career, he's never pitched more than 130 innings.
Mhm.
So when you have both of those things and factors at play, it's going to lend itself to the Royals have to figure out how to get him rest, how to get him through an entire season. And they've already done that to a certain degree. He was skipped a couple of times in their starting rotation to just give him some health and some days off. But like you said, when he came out firing, he was in the AL Cy Young race right up there with Tariq Skubal and Max Fried early on in the season. And And he's been a breakout candidate, certainly for the Royals. And I think a lot of that goes to just his ability to really be aggressive, more aggressive, as he called himself, coming back from Tommy John surgery. You got to remember, when he got hurt in 2023, he's coming off probably one of his best starts of his career. Went back home to San Francisco, and he pitched in front of family and friends, and he limited the Giants really over 6 innings, and he had 9 strikeouts. It was like a really good performance for him in 2023. He said that was like the blueprint of what he could do at the big league level, but then he goes and gets hurt the next start after that. So now he has to really put that all on ice and get back. So when he comes back in 2024, he goes into the Rose bullpen. He learns that, hey, I can be effective as a reliever, and I can use the same mentality of just attacking hitters, treating it as I have 1 inning, and this is the 1 inning that I have, and I have to get 3 outs. And if I do that repeatedly, I can be better as a starter. And the Royals always wanted him to be a starter, so they put him back in the starting rotation this offseason. He had to earn a job in spring training, which he did, but the Royals lost Brady Singer because they traded him for Jonathan India. And part of that was because they knew that they had Chris Bubich that they could insert it back into the starting rotation, and they really wanted Jonathan India to be the leadoff hitter and get on base in front of Bobby Wood Jr. Now, has that really panned out for the Royals so far? It's kind of a mixed bag, but that was the thinking behind the India Singer trade and why Chris Bubich is in the starting rotation right now.
Well, one of the offensive sparks for the Royals this year, it's been Miguel Garcia, and he's gone from a 69 WRC plus in 2024 all the way up to 138 this year. What do you think has led to his improvement, and are there any adjustments that you've noticed from him at all this season?
Yes, the toe tap has been the adjustment for Miguel Garcia. This offseason, he realized that he did not play the way he wanted to play in 2024. And if you go back to 2024, the opening day, he hits a leadoff home run. And then in that series, he has 2 home runs in his first 3 games. And he openly admitted, saying that, I was chasing the home runs because he had tapped into some power and he wanted to just hit him out of the park. And that kind of got him out of his rhythm, out of his swing that he needed to be in. So instead of going and playing winter ball and, doing what everything he did the seasons prior, he locked in and worked with the hitting coaches and everyone to fix his batting stance. He was diving into the plate, which the hitting coaches explained to us as he's just crashing and trying to, get to the outside part of the plate, but he's losing his balance as he's going through with his swing. So he adds the toe tap back to his mix. So that allows him to stay back, stay upright, be able to stay on time and on the same plane. And that has allowed him to really let his swing, which is a very beautiful swing, by the way, really take hold and operate through the strike zone. So that's why you're seeing him have one of the top batting averages in the league right now and be able to really emerge himself as that number 3 hitter in the lineup. When the Royals were winning games 2014, 2015, you kind of saw Lorenzo Cain be a similar type of player where he wasn't necessarily a power guy, but he was a guy that could be consistent and that could get on base, move the runner over, steal bases, things of that nature. Miguel Garcia has some of the similar qualities and characteristics in his game. And I think that just his ability to just be more available and be more consistent, he's grown up a lot too. And that's another thing that people don't realize. The maturity that he has grown from 2024 to now has been tremendous. He's also really taking ownership of learning English in post game interviews and things of that nature. He's really been speaking English, speaking to reporters, answering questions. He doesn't need a translator anymore. So those are some things that off the field has also helped with the maturity and the growth. And those were things he really wanted to nail this offseason. A funny thing about him learning English, he used to watch videos of just different shows and players and interviews and just to learn the language and learn how to the dialect, and he's been really good at that. So I think all around, Michael Garcia is probably the breakout player for the Royals this year.
Awesome. Yeah. And he is actually, guys, I didn't realize this. According to the Razzball Player Rater, he is the #1 ranked fantasy second baseman so far this year.
Is he
So
really?
he is. I just looked that up. I don't have him anywhere, so I knew he was doing well, but I didn't realize how well he was doing. He has been awesome. I'm
Yeah,
gonna pass it over. I'm
I
sorry.
think
Go
he
ahead,
should
Jaylon.
be an all-star this year. I really do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to pass it over to Mike. I think we finally got you back.
Yeah,
we were question about another second baseman.
Yeah, we were in the middle of a bad storm here, guys. So I moved around in the house a little bit to try to get a little bit better connection. So, Jaylon, a guy that I have been interested in off and on the last couple of years is Michael Massey. Any updates on him, and what are your expectations for him when he does return to the team?
He's on a rehab assignment right now in AAA Omaha, and he's working his way back from an ankle sprain. He's moving around. He's played the outfield. He's played designated hitter. So the Royals are hopeful that he can potentially come back soon. The thing about Michael Massey is he hasn't had the best season, and he'll be the first one to tell you that at the plate. He's working through his swing, and he just needs to get back to being consistent. And I think if he can be consistent, the Royals really miss his bat in the lineup because they need that left-handed specialist to be able to kind of give more of a balance to the lineup. And then they have Benny, they have Jack Caglione, they got of course a couple others, but to have that third left-handed bat that really you can count on each and every time out is something that the Royals really want to have. And Michael Massey he's going to be pretty much in the outfield for the coming back in probably the remainder of the season because they have Jonathan India at second base. Remember, in spring training, they tried both of them out in the outfield. India just never really took hold there. He's more of a second baseman, and that's where they kind of have put him to help stabilize him a little bit, but doesn't have to go back and forth. So that means that Massey has to be in the outfield or maybe play part-time at second base if India needs a day off or it is DH. So he's going to have to really just take hold to that position when he comes back because the Royals just don't really have a necessary spot for him. And, you know, it's interesting to see. Like, he has to hit. There's no qualms about it. He has to hit if he's going to have a spot on this roster when he comes back because Jack Caglianone's in right field. And you have Kyle Isbell in center field. So that means you have a mix of Michael Massey, Drew Waters, John Ray, Mark Cannon, all vying for an outfield spot, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to fit all of that together. But right now, the Royals got to they just need anyone that can hit and be productive offensively.
Jaylon, is there anyone in the Royals system that dynasty players should be keeping an eye on?
Ooh, that's a good question. As far as fantasy goes, I mean, it depends on the metrics that you like. For me, I would say a guy like Steven Cruz. Steven Cruz has been phenomenal this year, and he's starting to get a lot of high leverage work. So the Royals have not had Hunter Harvey. He's injured right now. And the guys that they rely on in that bullpen is Lucas Erceg and Carlos Estevez. So I'm sure everyone has Carlos Estevez as a top closer. He leads the league in saves. But a guy like Steven Cruz has been a revelation in that bullpen. And depending on how you play fantasy, you might need a guy that, if you like category leagues, he could be someone that's good in category leagues. If you need someone that is a reliever or maybe play roto, it might be someone that can give you some points where you might need them. But I would just say Steven Cruz. And then a pitcher wise, if you haven't got the Noah Cameron yet, you might want to get on that Noah Cameron bandwagon too.
Absolutely.
Good. That's a good one. Jaylon, I wanted to ask you, you always have such great insight when you come on with us, and we really appreciate your time, know how busy you are. But who's a player on the Royals this year that's really impressed you with, not just in terms of their on-the-field performance, but also in terms of their character and work ethic off the field that you see on a daily basis?
I really like Nick Lofton, and I know he's up with the big leagues team, and I'm really excited that he has been up here. He's one of the nicest guys in the clubhouse. one of the nicest guys. And, he has worked hard to drive the baseball more because he can always play good defense. He can play all over the field as a utility player. But when you're the utility player, you also have to be able to be good at a couple of things offensively to stay in the lineup, right? So for him to be able to drive the ball, I think is really key. And if he just keeps getting the opportunity, I think he can be someone that carves out a role on the Royals. Maybe not a starter, but someone that you can plug in and play. And then I also got to say Freddie Fermin. Freddie Fermin to me is the quintessential fantasy player where he might not have the metrics offensively, but he's a gamer and he's clutch. He drops sacrifice bunts down. You don't run on Freddie Fermin. Chandler Simpson learned that out the hard way today.
Yeah, he did.
He tried to score, got picked off of third base. Freddie Fermin, his story is really marvelous. I did just a feature on him. He comes from Venezuela, and he wasn't thought of to be a guy that's a top prospect, but he worked his way up. He went through every level. He's a blue collar, blue chip, hard working type of player, and you root for guys like that. So I think the Royals would say if Salvi wasn't on the team or Salvi wasn't who he is in Salvador Perez, Freddie Fermin will be a starting catcher on any other team in the big leagues. That's just how great he is. He's one of the best defensive backstops. He's one of the best at calling games. If you look at Chris Bubich's numbers early in the season, 9 times out of 10, Freddie Fermin was catching those games. So I think that, if anyone, as far as in the organization that deserves a lot of credit, or it's Freddie Fermin for me.
Jaylon,
All right,
can you
Jaylon.
tell us-
One last question we have for you here.
Mhm.
We always like, and you just gave us some interesting information about some of these players. We love getting that kind of behind the scenes info. And our last question for you is: we like getting kind of like a funny or interesting story that you've had from your time on the beat. It could be this year or maybe in past years, but anything come to mind in terms of an interesting story you could share with our listeners?
Yeah. When we go to Anaheim, I love Disney. I love like Marvel, all that kind of stuff. So Anaheim, if you haven't been there, Disneyland is like right next door. So I make it a point, in my off time, before the game or whatever, to go to Disneyland. So this was last year, but the Royals played in Anaheim. It was like a night game. I got up early, went to Disneyland, rode all the rides. Then I came back. He got my stuff together to cover the game, and I thought that was one of the coolest things that I could have done. It was totally worth it. And one thing I learned too is that if you're just a single rider, they have this thing on a couple of the rides where you can just skip all the way to the front of the line and get on the ride because you're just one person, right?
Oh.
So it was like amazing. I'm skipping all kind of lines where I would have to normally wait, riding all the good rides. I love Star Wars, so Star Wars was another thing that I was like a kid in the candy store. So I will always say Disneyland is forever my favorite trip to do in Anaheim because it's just right there. It's perfect. My hotel I usually stay at is right by the stadium, so it's just a great way to just zip over there, zip back, go to the stadium. So I thought that's always my favorite. And then on top of that, going to Oracle this year, that's probably was my favorite for just this season. I've never been to Oracle Park, so going there, going to San Francisco, beautiful views, beautiful just environment, and the food. If you
The
know
food
me,
is
I'm
crazy
foodie.
good.
So good. Best ballpark food in the entire league, hands down, no debate.
Interesting. It's funny. I was watching the Giants game last night and I had that thought. I'm like, I got to get out to Oracle Park. It just looks so beautiful, like with the bay in the background. It just looks like such a cool experience. So
And they have rotating DJs, right? So
Really?
there are different types of DJs on each type of night, and it's a vibe. Like we were there, I think on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and it was packed out all 3 days. Like a lot of young people come to these games, and that's you don't see that in most MLB places. But at San Francisco, they do. They show up, they show out, and like I said, it's an easy walk. It's right there. People enjoy it. People love it. And I did not know this either, but the Coke bottle actually has a slide inside of it, which was
Really?
unique to me. I did not know that. So
Huh.
yeah, people get on that as well.
Did you go down the slide?
I did not go down the slide, but
Alright.
next time we go, I'll make sure I go and do that. But like
Yeah,
I said,
I keep pushing. We've had Kurt Hogue of the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel on quite a few times, and keep telling him he's got to go down the slide, the
Got
Bernie Brewer
to.
slide. I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing if you're not going down the slide? So
Exactly. You got to.
yeah, very cool. I imagine the travel after a while probably can be really difficult, as a beat writer, but then there's also those cool experiences that you could have that sound like an absolute blast. So
yeah,
very
travel can be crazy. I'll show you guys this funny travel story. So Kansas City to Cleveland should be a short trip, but there's no direct flights from Kansas City to Cleveland. So you have to catch a connecting. So I'm going to Cleveland and I fly through Atlanta, which I was like, okay, I'm from Georgia. I know Hartsfield Jackson. This is easy, right? Fly there, catch my flight to Cleveland. I'm there. It's thundering and lightning. So my flight is stuck in the air because they can't land because the storms are just shut everything down. Air traffic control shuts everything down. So the pilot's like, we got to go to Jacksonville to refuel. So they go to Jacksonville, refuel, fly to Atlanta. Now, I did not know it's an hour and 30 minutes from Jacksonville to Atlanta on a flight. I was like, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. Okay.
Yeah. So we go, and my connecting flight is obviously canceled. So they rebooked me, right? But I can't get on the rebook flight with Delta because it's like late in the day. So I said, all right, let me try to fly Frontier. Now, mind you, I've never flown Frontier ever in my life.
And you will never do it again.
Never do it again.
I'm
right?
surprised you're here to tell the story.
Yeah. So I booked the Frontier flight that's like 7 a.m. because they have a game that night. So I gotta get to Cleveland some kind of way so I can be in the city. So I'm pretty much up that whole night, and I'm waiting in the airport. It's like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6. Finally, the flight's at 7. We go. First flight out in Frontier, there's like 40 people on this flight, right? There's nobody on this flight to Cleveland. Get to Cleveland. I don't know how I got from the time I got in the air to the time I got down. I was asleep. I don't know how I got there, right? It just was like I was knocked out. But that's just a story that I like to tell people because people always think, oh, it's so cool to be a journalist and do your job. And it is. It's very cool. It's very rewarding. But you also have to deal with a lot of travel and a lot of things that people don't see just to make it and survive. And that's one of those cases.
Yeah, you're not flying on the team plane. You're flying.
No,
you're flying Frontier in Southwest. Yeah,
we're flying commercial Southwest. Give me some pretzels and a soda and go on about your day. Or if you're lucky, because sometimes they don't give you snacks on those planes because if it's turbulence, the flight attendants can't get up.
Right.
So you're just like, well. And then also I learned this too. If the flight is under a certain amount of miles, they just give you water. And I was like,
so ridiculous.
I want my Biscoff cookie.
A little 2-pack.
I think that might be the title of the show this week, guys. I want my Biscoff cookie. I think
exactly.
That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah,
good stuff, Jaylon. Thank you so much. That was great. Well, listen, you were great as usual. We love having you on. Everybody should be checking you out on social media, checking out your work at the Kansas City Star. If you could just tell our listeners where they could find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, or I guess they call it X now, at Jaylon Thompson, JaylonThompson. And also follow the podcast. This is a great show. You guys are awesome. And I appreciate you guys for having me on. So I want everybody to keep subscribing and keep watching.
Appreciate that a lot.
Thanks.
And listen, next time when you come out here to New York, I'm gonna look at the Royal. Are you coming out to play the Yankees at all this year? Or?
We already came.
You
this
did,
year.
okay.
But next year, I mean, if they make the playoffs, we probably will be in New York. So we might.
Okay. All right. Well, I will look out for the Royals on the schedule, and I got to get down to a game and. Definitely owe you. I don't know if you could drink beer while you're on the job, but definitely
after the game.
Bring some cookies.
after the game, and bring some bring some cookies with me too. Yeah.
And also, you got to show
bring
me
some Biscoff cookies.
Yeah, you got to show me the best places to get like a good slice. Because when I was in New York, I went to Cass Deli, which is really good, but I want the best pastrami and I want the best pizza slice. So you send me those places.
No. You gotta come. You gotta come here to get the best pizza slice in Chicago.
Oh, here we go. Right. New York versus Chicago. All right, that's for another episode.
Okay, Nick and Vito is less than a half an hour from Sox Park. I'll meet you there next time you're here.
Bet. Let's do it.
All right, good stuff, Jaylon. Thank you again. We are going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with our fantasy follow-up segment. All right, good stuff, Jaylon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jaylon.
Thank you, guys, man.
Thanks for coming on, and thanks for all your kind words about my daughter too, man. That was really nice of you to share that on the email when we were going back and forth getting you on the show. I really appreciate it.
For sure. Like I said, I'm really proud of her, and like when she gets that museum that she's going to open, let me know.
I will definitely do that. I know you're a museum guy, so
yeah, I love it. Yeah.
All right, Jaylon. Have a good night.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, Jaylon. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
See you guys next time.
All right, bye.
Sounds good. Bye. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Man,
he's like the most fun, energetic dude, right? Yeah, isn't he? Like, man, I wish I was cool in 25.
Yeah, right.
I wasn't cool at 25 either. I'm not cool now, and ain't nothing.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, bro.
Got nothing going for me.
Yeah, same. But anyway, let's Dave, if you could just edit out that one part. I thought you were taking that question about the story, so there was a little bit of a gap there. So if you can't, whatever.
I'll edit that. And there was something around 8 minutes or something with I can't remember. I wrote it down 8:30-ish. There's something that happened. It might have been something with Mike
cutting out.
I don't know.
Okay.
All right. I can take it.
I might have farted. It might have been me.
Yeah, that happens. All right. Give me a sec here because I wanted to pull up. Let's see if we even have time. What time is it? Yeah, we got to get moving. Do you want to talk about Salvi Perez or?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. All right. We should do a little follow-up. Yeah.
With Royals, yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. All right, let me just pull them up. All right, let's go.
Okay.
All right, we are back for our fantasy follow-up segment. You just heard the interview with Jaylon Thompson of the Kansas City Star, and we're going to keep the focus on the Royals here and talk about a player we didn't discuss with Jaylon, but from a fantasy perspective, probably a guy that we should at least take note of here, and that's Salvador Perez. And the reason to take note of him, I think, is that Salvi isn't really giving us the typical Salvador Perez season. You know, he was drafted fairly high this year, probably around that round 6, round 7. And has not really lived up to expectations. He's got a 77 WRC plus with 9 home runs, 41 RBIs, which is solid. I mean, he's a guy who plays every day, hits in the middle of the lineup, even if it's not the best lineup. What's really shocking, I know he's never been an asset in runs, but dude's only got 19 runs playing the whole season every day. That's wild. A 232 batting average, which is lower than we would expect. There are, if you look, though, at the expected stats and all the underlying metrics, there is some reason for optimism. But I want to toss this to you guys. And Dave, I'll start with you. Do you think Salvi, based on what we've seen, and you could get into some of the underlying numbers if you want, but do you think he's a buy low, someone, if he's available and an owner is frustrated with his start, like someone you should be sending an offer for?
I really want to say yes, not just because he's actually one of my favorite players, but he's got, like, looking at his underlying numbers, like you said, there's a lot of red on his StatCast page, and a lot of those numbers are the same as they were last year, or slightly better, slightly worse. So they're around the same range. I mean, he's got a higher barrel rate this year. His XBA is 275, which is exactly the same as it was last year. He's got a higher pull air rate, which is great. the bat speed is relatively the same. So a lot of the things, it feels like he is unlucky. The hard part is that he's getting up there in age, and I wonder when it becomes the time with him that when is it what he's supposed to do? When does that stop mattering because he's not actually doing it? I love looking at expected stats, and I love looking at what players should be doing, but I just don't know if here at the beginning of July, very soon, is it at the point where we need to move on from what should be happening and go to what is happening? Or are we still at a point where we can, try and plan for that? I love Perez, but I'm starting to run out of patience for it to finally happen this year.
Yeah.
Well,
he is 35 years old, and guys played 1 million games at catcher. I think he's a surefire Hall of Famer at this point. But yeah, there's a lot of wear and tear on that body. Even like the times he does get injured, he just like bounces back. Like something will happen, and he's just he comes out of the game. It hasn't really been this year. It was more last year. He had several instances where he came out of the game and we're like, oh, that's it. He did something, and then he's back in the lineup the next day. Like he's the Iron Man.
Yes.
What about you, Mike? What do you think about Perez?
I would like to make a comment on this. We have Davey Downer back again, it seems.
Of course, yeah.
He was here last week. Wah, wah. But what catchers in baseball this month have hit 265 with 5 home runs and 15 RBIs? I'll quiet down. I'll hang up and listen for my answer.
Wow, nice. You dropped the mic. Okay.
No, the problem is that he got dropped in a lot of leagues and he shouldn't have been. I picked him up in my home league, and I'm using him and Agustin Ramirez and Nick Kurtz as sort of a platoon system between catcher and first base, and that seems to be working pretty well for my team right now. I always have been a big believer in Sal. He's going to play. He's going to get a lot of at bats. Yes, he's aging, but 35 sounds really young to me because I'm 51. So I think he's doing okay. I think as the weather heats up, he's feeling a little bit better. It seems like, and you're right. There's been some bad luck there. I'm definitely buying in on Sal Perez if somebody wants to move him.
Yeah, I wonder too, man. We talked about Jack earlier, and some of how unlucky he has been, and all the expected stats look great for him. I know in the past, I don't have Vinny P's numbers this year in front of me, but like in the past, we've looked at Vinny P and thought he should be hitting for more power based on the expected numbers. I really wonder how much that park plays a factor in some of these guys, in not realizing these expected stats. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. There may be nothing to that, but that park just sucks. It's just really for home runs, especially. It is just not a good place. But I mean, Salvi's made it work in the past, so I don't know. Maybe I'm just spewing BS. But bottom line is, if Perez is available, whether on your waiver wire or via trade, I think he's definitely someone you should be targeting. Speaking of the waiver wire and speaking of pickups, I want to give you my pickup of the week here. And I want you to stop what you're doing right now. All right. If you're listening to this while you're driving, pull over. If you're making love right now, I don't know why you'd be listening to us, but if you are, tell your partner you need to take a break.
Wow.
If you're on a run listening to this, stop running and instead run to your waiver wire to check if Dodgers starting pitcher Emmett Sheehan is available. Now in CBS leagues, he's 34% rostered. That, in my opinion, will be well above 75% by the end of the year. I think he's going to be the most impactful pitcher to come up in the second half of the season.
That's a bold statement.
I'm bold, baby. All right. Sheehan has made 5 rehab starts since returning from Tommy John surgery. During those starts, he's got a 52% strikeout rate to go with a 2% walk rate. Now, I'm not the best at math, but that would equal a 50% K- walk rate. He had 1 start for the Dodgers this season, went 4 scoreless innings, and struck out 6. His swinging strike rate in that 1 start was 15.4%. The Dodgers sent him back down temporarily but Dave Roberts already said that Sheehan is going to be back with the team soon. I think he's going to be back up by next week, if not the following. He's going to slot right into that Dodgers rotation. He should be built up for a full starter's workload. And that rotation has been decimated by injury. So I think there's going to be a spot for him, whether it's, because of injury or ineffectiveness. Dustin May is not looking so great right now. So again, I think Emmett Sheehan is going to be the most impactful starting pitcher called up from this point forward, and someone who's going to be universally rostered in all formats by next month. Go get him now.
Boy, I hope you're right, because I picked him up in tout 2 weeks ago, and then he got sent down.
Well, and you held on to him, right?
Yes, I did. I did not cut him because I thought, this guy at some point is going to be back, because the Dodgers can't keep anyone healthy on that rotation. Right. And I think he struck out 12 guys last night in a AAA start.
Oh, yeah. He's just completely dominant. So I don't see how, after that performance, how they're going to keep him down any longer. It's not like they don't have a need as well. So I think we're going to see him by next week. And, he's going to be a hot commodity. So if you're able to, you should be able to. He's available because he already came up and pitched once. So that 34% number is going to be way, way higher a month from now, I think.
Can I add one thing?
Add it. Go.
For those of you who were making love and are alone right now, ladies, how you doing? Just want to say hello.
Oh my God. Barry White over here. Sounds great.
Oh Lord. We just lost so many listeners. Anyway, let's transition somehow to the
Are we gonna kick him off the show now? Are we gonna kick
it's definitely I gotta
talk
to our people and see what we need to do about that. All right, let's get to our Davey Downer segment, where Dave likes to make us all sad and talk about injuries. He somehow finds a lot of satisfaction in that, but hey, let's just lean into it and get his insights on a couple injured pitchers. And I came up with a list of 4 injured pitchers that I wanted to get your opinion on. And specifically, I'm wondering, out of these 4, who are you feeling most optimistic about rest of season and why? 4 pitchers are Kodai Senga, Hunter Green, Aaron Nola, and Blake Snell. So factoring in their skills, I think they're all kind of in the same range. Snell ahead of the others, but just in terms of their skills, their injury that they're dealing with, their anticipated return date, who are you feeling most optimistic about right now, Dave?
All right, so I'll go over the 3 that I'm not optimistic about first, and I'll start with Aaron Nola. First, he had his ankle. He says he's fine with that now, but he's got a stress reaction in his ribs. Those are very tricky to deal with, not rib injuries, but stress reactions anywhere, because they could also lead to stress fractures and breakages, especially if a player comes back too soon or tries to do too much too soon. So for him, it's important to take his time, not have it get overly stretched or use it or exerted. And not just that, but he's been terrible this year. So I am the least optimistic about him, not just returning healthy, but also returning and actually producing. Next in line for me would actually be Blake Snell. The problem is that it's a recurring shoulder injury, and he's had multiple setbacks every time he started throwing. Now, he did have an injection, so maybe that could heal it. But at the end of the day, I know he's a big part of the Dodgers' October plan, and they want him healthy for that. So for that reason, I don't think they're going to rush him. And even if they do, I don't know how much he will pitch, at least in the early going from here on out. The other player that I'm not overly optimistic about, I'm somewhat, but not quite, is Hunter Green. It's a recurring groin injury. And just like with Snell, with these recurring injuries, teams tend to take more time to allow them to come back. They want to make sure they learn from their past mistakes. And not just the groin, but he also had back soreness as well from his last start. He also had the elbow soreness last year, which was quite worrisome. And honestly, I kind of think his arm might just fall off at some point. He just throws the ball so hard. So as good as he's
That'd be quite a sight. Yeah.
yeah, as good as it's been, I do worry about him as well. But the one that I didn't talk about was Kota Senga. It's a hamstring injury, which is okay. I mean, it's not an arm injury. He knew about it right away. The team knew about it right away. The hard part about hamstring injuries is just keeping his arm loose and ready. But apparently Senga has. He's going to be playing catch off of a mound this Monday. And even looking at the past, we've had 2 pretty major hamstring injuries for pitchers this year. Strider was back in under 4 weeks, and Shota Imanaga came back within 7 weeks. So I'm thinking anywhere in between that 4 and 7 week range. He was pretty good when he was getting while he was pitching. So of the 4 there, give me Kodai Senga.
All right, Dave's choice is Kodai Senga. Mike, any thoughts on any of these pitchers?
I love Kodai Senga. I have him in multiple places. Dave just made me happy.
All right, hey, Dave and happy usually are not, in the same sentence. So that's good to hear. All right, we are going to take another quick break, and then we're going to be back and close out with our mental health minute. All right, we are back, and this week's mental health minute topic is the connection between sleep and mental health. And I think most people are generally aware of the importance of sleep, but I don't think a lot of people really make it a priority. And I think it's something that, like, if that is an area that we are not addressing properly, we are going to suffer both mentally and physically. It really is the foundation of our overall health. So I want to throw this question out to you guys. How much sleep do you normally get? And if you could tell us if you have about any good sleep hygiene practices, like good, routines around sleep that you engage in. And also if there's any challenges or barriers that you face in terms of being consistent in this area. I'm going to kick it to you, Mike. Start us off.
Yeah, life is a barrier to sleep.
Yes.
Really, when you think about it, I mean, we're all really busy people. Stress levels can be quite high. I am a notoriously bad sleeper. I have been for most of my life. And I've tried a variety of different things to try to help me fall asleep. Melatonin really does help me out. If I take it about a half an hour before I would like to try to fall asleep, it kind of helps me work in that regard. But I think having a routine that helps you signify to your body that it's time for bed is really important. And for me, that includes putting my phone away. That includes turning my phone off about 9 o'clock to make sure that I'm not getting any more messages unless it's an emergency from, my parents or my siblings or something like that, or the kids.
Can I
turn that off and I try to...
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
How often do you stick to that?
Of course.
No, I said,
not as
how
often as I
do
should.
you stick to that? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say probably 4 out of 7 days a week I stick to it.
All right, better than me. All right.
My problem is that I start checking the late scores. I start looking at my fantasy teams. I'm not doom scrolling at that point. I'm kind of past it at that point. But long story short, what I'm trying to get back in the habit of doing is reading. I like to read fiction. And I have books stacked up on my bedstand that I haven't been reading that I'm trying to get back into to help me fall asleep. The problem when you get old is that in the middle of the night, no matter what you do, you have to pee and wake to go to the bathroom. And then the battle really begins for going back to sleep. Because I don't want to go back in the room and wake up Katie, and I don't want to mess with the kids. So I usually go out to the couch. And if I'm not ready to sleep, I'll read a little bit more, or, sometimes unfortunately pick up the phone and kind of look at that and look at the late scores and look at late waiver wire pickups or whatever it might be. It's something I really need to work on. But what I really have been doing to help myself fall back asleep in the middle of the night, which has helped me be successful in getting more sleep, is really focusing on my breathing. I know we've talked about that quite a bit on the show, and doing the different 4 square breathing is what I really like to do. It helps me stay grounded. I also have a tendency to kind of try to lay on my back and just kind of let the tension kind of flow from my fingertips and my toes out, and just kind of try to symbolically think of that leaving my body so that I can fall back asleep. And generally that allows me to get another 3 or 4 hours of sleep. On average, on most nights, I'm getting somewhere around 6 to 7, which is probably not enough. But I do in summertime get quick cat naps when I get home sometimes. Like I'll sometimes have an hour in between things and I'll fall asleep for 15 minutes in my chair. The kids make fun of me, but it's a really great way for me to be able to kind of quickly recharge the battery, kind of shift into neutral for a minute and get going. So I think just in summary, I would say having a routine that you can try to stick to, it is very, very hard to do that because your body wants to have that symbolic gesture that it's time for bed. And we're not always very good at that.
Yeah. I really struggle with what you were saying with looking at the phone late at night. Like I have that goal, right? Like 9:30, put the phone away and read or do something relaxing, no screens, because there's been a lot of research about the blue light from phone, from TV, how that could increase or interfere with melatonin production, which kind of messes up your whole circadian rhythm. And I try to stick to that, and I'm usually unsuccessful. And it's something I'm still working on. And I imagine probably nowadays most people struggle with that because our phones are so attached to us. Usually they're on our nightstand next to us. I've even tried like putting the phone in a different room, not like overnight, because there is something about that. It's like, I don't know. It's like, the first thing I want to reach for in the morning is my phone, right? And that's just not healthy. So just kind of creating that physical distance, I think, can be important. Dave, what about you? How are you doing in this area? What are some things that are working, maybe not working?
Yeah, for me, I tend to get anywhere between 6 and 8 hours sleep a night. I'm an early riser, but that's primarily because for some of the writing that I do, I purposely go to bed a little bit earlier than, the typical adult, just so I can be up in time to, look at the scores, look at the injuries, do my writing. And then I head out to the gym. I do okay with sleep for most nights. I'll be honest. I feel refreshed. Like I do feel tired when I wake up in the mornings, and I just don't know if that's part of aging as well. Like I'm 46 right now, so I don't know if that's something new that I'm entering or what, but I don't know. I feel good with my sleep. I don't get tired that much throughout the day. Some things that I know help, like there's some nights where, one of the kids will sleep with us or with, maybe I'll take their bed, and white noise helps me a lot.
Yeah.
I love a fan. I love even sometimes just soft music or something going on in the background. It helps me. But I know even throughout the day too, if there's ever a fan and I'm sitting in front of it, I feel relaxed. And I know that for me, I'm doing well in that moment. So
it's funny. I'm the same way, man. Like I can't sleep without white noise. Like if I go to a hotel or something and I don't have it, like I'm screwed, like I need it. But even like you're saying during the day, like even if I go to the gym, we've big fan there, I don't know what this means, but like it's probably not good. Like I just can't. The silence of being somewhere, and just complete silence drives me nuts.
I'm okay with the silence of being like, I love my alone time. Don't get me wrong. Okay. I love my family, but I love my alone time.
Yeah.
But the vibration and the sound of a fan or something like that, it calms me. It helps me relax. Yeah. So I find that when I have a fan on when I sleep, or really cold temperatures too, I'm loving life. So yeah, I guess if anything works for me, it's a fan.
Yeah. And sleeping in a cool room, I mean, research has shown that that's really the optimal thing in terms of getting restorative sleep. The other thing I think that I see people do that I think is kind of a mistake or interfering with getting good sleep is, a lot of people come home after a long day's work and whatever, maybe you have kids, you settle them down, you do everything, your nighttime routine, and then they like to wind down by having a drink, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's a pretty common thing. I know several people that do this. They just, I unwind with like a glass of wine or whatever. And I think once in a while, whatever, yeah, it's fine. But if that's something that you do on a consistent basis and you're not feeling good, whether it's mentally or physically, that's probably something to look at. Because alcohol really does impact your body's ability to get into REM sleep, that restorative sleep that your brain needs, your body needs. And also, I mean, I know I'll bring up when I was out there in Arizona with you, Mike, if you don't mind, you were snoring like a freaking bear, bro. But you had gone out that night,
Right.
and I'm sure had a couple drinks, right? And what that does,
Right.
alcohol kind of releases it kind of relaxes your throat so that it is more likely, like I don't know the exact mechanism, but basically like it leads to more snoring and your mouth hanging open. So that's obviously not going to help you get good sleep. So I think anybody who's listening who maybe feels like they're not sleeping great, but is also using alcohol, at night on a consistent basis before they go to bed, probably something to at least take a look at and say, is this really the best thing for me? So those are our thoughts on that, but just make it a priority. Like it really, I do see people who are just, they put it on the back burner, whether they're like busy with other stuff and just feel like, how, you hear the common refrain, like, I'll sleep when I'm dead kind of thing. Well, you're probably gonna die sooner if you're not getting good sleep now, like, and you may feel fine if you're 21, like, yeah, you could push through it, but that will catch up to you eventually. So it's something that I think no matter what age you're at, something to really just start thinking about and making more of a focus. But we're going to leave it there. We will be back next week. I think you have Scott Merkin tentatively lined up. Is that true?
I think next week we're going to have Jake Rill, and then the week
okay.
after
Beautiful. All right,
that
so
we're
we'll
going to
have
have Scott Merkin. I think.
Great.
So hope.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Well, thank you for all the work you're putting into that, and hopefully we'll have Jake talking Orioles with us next week. But until then, for Dave Funnel, for Mike Carter, I am Chris Torres. Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Baseball Beat.